All right, welcome everyone. Excited to have everyone here. Prime Day countdown has begun. For those of you who don't know me, I am Laura Meyer, founder and CEO of Envision Horizons. We are really excited to talk about a tactical playbook and Q&A on how to handle Prime Day. So what's fun about today's webinar is this is not just high-level people. I'm here to moderate. I may give some opinions, but we have some amazing Envision Horizons team members here who are hands-on keyboard, who have been through the trenches in the early hours and the late hours and have done everything that it takes to generate a successful Prime Day for our clients. And we're excited to share with you all what works, what we're predicting, and how the heck we are going to manage the fact that Amazon moved Prime Day up on all of us, where it's not only in a new month, but is also in a new quarter. They are keeping the 4-day format. So as always, keeping us on our toes. One thing that I do want to highlight to everyone is there's a little pop-up in the corner. You'll also see it in the link that I shared in the chat, but we are offering one-on-one Prime Day consultations for brands that are spending at least $30,000 a month in Amazon media. If you qualify for that, those are complimentary consultations. And as a part of that, you will also get access to our very robust checklist that we use for our own clients. So if you're interested, let us know. You can sign up through the link. You can send us a note, drop me a message on LinkedIn. We take all forms of communication here. So without further ado, I want to introduce the rest of the Envision Horizons team here. I'm going to kick it off to Matt, who can introduce himself.
Great. Yeah, my name is Matt Koski. I'm currently Director of Business Development, have led our paid media team, formerly an account manager. This will be my 9th Prime Day here at Envision Horizons. And just a fun little fact, we're throwing out recent Prime Day purchases. I last Prime Day bought a dumbbell weight set. It's been effective. I can put a link in the chat if anyone's interested. But I'll pass it over to Victoria.
Hi, everyone. I'm Victoria Reese. I'm an account director here at Envision. I oversee one of our pods of account managers and their books of business. So just really making sure that they're tracking towards goals that we've set in place, hitting deliverables, and also providing aerial view into category shifts, consumer trends on Amazon to help find our white space, scale quickly, define our edge in the space through media, creative, SEO, and AI optimization. This will be my 8th Prime Day at Envision, coming up on the 16th Prime Day in total within my career. And my last Prime Day purchase is a little lame, but stocked up on my Sensodyne toothpaste, not endorsed.
Perfect. I'll jump in. So hi, I'm Antonieta Lairet. I am a senior account manager here at Envision. So I am the day-to-day contact for a few clients, and I develop their Prime Day strategy in a collaborative manner with them, make recommendations, and handle all day-to-day activity on the account. This will be my 3rd Prime Day with Envision Horizon, but I have been working in the Amazon space for about 7 years now, so very familiar with lots of Prime Days as well. And my most recent Prime Day purchase, I believe, was ski goggles for my husband. So those do go on good sales as well.
Yeah, especially in the summer.
Exactly.
Well, wonderful. If you go into the chat box and on the upper right-hand side, you'll see handouts. You can download this Prime Day guide right from there. I'm going to just walk you through a quick tour, but really the purpose of this webinar is to have some very fun and interactive Q&A. We're going to open the floor after I moderate some discussion here. But really, we want to be here as a resource for those of you who have shown up today. So as we've highlighted, Prime Day is not the same as last year. As we have joked, they really like to not only surprise the marketers and the operators who are managing Prime Day, but it is our hypothesis that they are doing this so that Target, Ulta, Sephora, Walmart, all the other retailers don't also match their activity. So with that, we have to move up our planning, our action. You've got to be on top of your inventory as soon as possible. If you have a lot of corporate planning and even budget approvals, you're probably going to have to pull those budgets forward into this quarter instead of Q3. And more importantly, making sure that you have the right team in place to operate what is once again going to be a 4-day event. Curious from the audience here how that 4-day event went for you last year. I know for our team, it was an intense marathon. We saw the increase of CPCs not slow down whatsoever. And now with the development of AI, a lot is going to be changing in terms of that discovery, both in terms of Rufus, but also I foresee LLMs off Amazon, so ChatGPT, Gemini, being that personal shopper for consumers during Prime Day. So as we continue through, the big thing is right now there's the pre-event. You need to know what you're doing from a logistics, from a promotional, what you can do to push media spend to increase your organic ranking today, and also really reflecting what's worked for your brand in the past and having those postmortems if you haven't done so already. So again, we have this guide. I'm not going to read it verbatim because this is more of some take-home material. We have a slide here that explains the difference between those deals that Amazon offers. And we're going to go over some watch list items that also take into account how these deals have evolved. Logistical timelines are all here, budget strategy, affiliate strategy, TikTok strategy, Rufus strategy, and most importantly, highlighting that this does not happen in a vacuum. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this down in terms of my screen sharing. And I am going to open it up to the panel here to discuss right off the bat what you would say are the biggest watch list items as it pertains to Amazon being earlier this year, a 4-day event this year, or even just the small little details that they changed that can really throw us a curveball. Matt, let's kick it off with you.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that comes to mind for me working in our media department is the lead-in preparation. And what Laura mentioned about budget preparation, plans within quarters, and making sure that you are able to unlock the right budget early enough. What we found for our brands that saw really big growth on Prime Day is a successful lead-in strategy that started, a full 4 weeks prior to Prime Day. We're just about approaching maybe 6 weeks out from Prime Day. So we need to already be planning and building out those campaigns in preparation for that 4-week lead into the event. So I think that is the biggest thing that needs to be considered, is moving up budgets, starting that preparation early in terms of awareness and consideration, in doing that in a way that still unlocks budget early enough, but allows for you to go all in during the actual event.
Victoria, what about you? What's the watch list item for you as you're helping prepare clients?
So one thing that really threw us for a loop last year was Amazon is now scraping external retailers for the lowest price in the last 60 days. So one of the items on my watch list is to have all of our brands load their deals, PEDs, early once we get approval, and then audit them weekly, even daily, to ensure that if there's, a 3P going rogue, a retailer going rogue off of Amazon, we can flag that early and reevaluate our strategy. One other addition to this would also be if there's a lot of price elasticity on Amazon with your 3Ps and matching those, ensuring that your price matching rules are either turned off or updated to a price floor that won't sacrifice your Prime Day discounting.
And what about you, Neny?
On my end, definitely making sure that we're not only just looking at pricing and advertising, but that the overall messaging before Prime Day is cohesive. So making sure your brand story is up to date and highlighting the hero products that you want to drive window shoppers towards, and like early before the event begins, and then during, making sure your actual storefront has messaging around your deals, because all of the brand loyal customers might not go in and search the deals page. They might just look up your brand, go straight to your storefront and shop that way. So really making sure all of your creative listings and every content lever you can pull is fully optimized for the event and for Rufus, since customers will be asking questions on Rufus prior to the event, preparing their shopping.
Thank you, Neny. Agreed. Creative is often overlooked as it pertains to Prime Day and is an easy win, especially now with AI supported tools. Matt, I'm going to come back to you because the 4-day format is very complicated as it pertains to media strategy, flighting ad budgets, trying to not over index on the first day so you have enough for the remaining 3 days. Walk us through what you saw last year and how media teams should be thinking about spending their budget during this year's 4-day event.
Yeah, there's some big changes from the 2-day format to the 4-day format that we saw. I think the big takeaway for all our brands is that day one is what makes or breaks the event. And we saw, 60% of the total traffic of the 4 days on day one. And so if you are not unlocking budgets going all in on day one, you likely can't make up the ground the remaining of the event. And I think some brands had that philosophy of let's withhold, maybe an equal proportion of budget for each of the subsequent days, and it just did not pan out that way. Additionally, beyond just the budget spend and allocation, we saw, I think, just shopper and deal fatigue. So the efficiency of our advertising, especially days 3 and 4, really fell off a cliff. And I think that needs to be taken into account as well, that you want to funnel and unlock more of your budget. You're going to see better efficiency day one. That's not to say that you shouldn't withhold adequate budget for days 2, 3, and 4, but it really tapers off. And I think the last note that we saw, especially with it being 4-day event, the event starting on a Tuesday and ending on a Friday, is the day 2 evening, the very end of the event previously, was the biggest moment of acceleration in the event and sales velocity, those last minute deals. With a Prime Day and a 4-day event ending on a Friday night, we saw a lot softer sales. And I think people are out and about doing their thing, and they're not thinking about shopping in the way that they have previously. So that's another switch up, as we used to reserve a ton of budget for the last end push, and that's no longer as relevant of a consideration.
Matt, to go off of Jason's question here in the chat box, do you think it being in June may change that last day push? Because I know we had hypotheses last year that it was 4 days, is right after July 4th. People were probably on vacation. Do you think the different month would change the kind of pacing of the 4-day event?
I think it's possible, but unlikely. I would still bet on it being very similar. And I think just in general, the more it's drug out, the more diluted the shopping and acceleration is going to be. With it being in June, could it accelerate some sales more so than July? I think it's possible, but I would say we're expecting similar trends, even though it's pushed up a few weeks prior to last year. The one thing that I do think is interesting for certain brands that are Father's Day heavy is that Father's Day is literally the Sunday before Prime Day is expected to be. So I do think that presents some curveballs of like, what will shopping patterns be for Father's Day with it being so close to the Prime Day event. So we might actually see some softness for that event with shoppers holding out or in anticipation of bigger and better deals on Prime Day.
Nothing like a belated Father's Day gift, just so you get that 30% off.
I have an opinion on this too, because now that it's pushed into June, we're coming off a few different events that Amazon is pushing deals for. So one of those being the big spring sale, followed by the big summer beauty event. And then in June, being Prime Day now. So one thing that I'm looking out for specifically with my beauty brands is potentially seeing some softness if they were to participate in the summer beauty haul and the big spring sale event, just because those are closer together. And with that in mind, one opposing thought would be, because last Prime Day it fell right before the mid-month paycheck, it is now going to fall after that mid-month paycheck. So it's likely we could see higher conversion and less window shopping because people will have their check in hand much sooner.
Interesting. Cash is king. You may spend more if you see more in your bank account. Neny, I want to switch to you on some of the more brand management components of the 4-day event. So Matt really walked us through how to pace things from a media perspective, but what are some other things brands should be aware of in the 4-day format?
So definitely, as Matt said, expecting majority of the volume to be on day one. I think the biggest thing is if you are going to leverage a lightning deal to bring back customers and get that urgency, bringing them back like on the second or third and fourth day, using those levers just so that you had your big push on day one. How else are you keeping customers interested and engaged throughout the event? So being prepared to have different deal types. And I think the guide referenced page 7 for all those different pointers on different deals, but that's a big one. And then in terms of the 4 days, just making sure that you don't let anything run on autopilot. So the way that we handle this for our clients, we are consistently online checking how everything is performing throughout the event. And even though we normally don't want to have to pivot on things during the event, being ready to do so, having those backup plans on hand so that if you do see things are trending differently from last year, 4 days means you have more time to act. So making sure that you have all hands on deck and making those changes to your bids, to your overall ad strategy in real time and addressing the trends that you're seeing.
Agreed. Now, this is for the team here, but Victoria, I feel like you're going to take the lead on it. And it's a big question every brand wants to know. How deep do my discounts actually need to be to move the needle?
Okay, so
Hot
Amazon
take,
has a
let's go.
minimum. Amazon has a minimum in order for you to get the badging, whether you're running PED or deals. But the real psychological entry point for shoppers is that 30% discount across your entire catalog. That's what's really going to move the needle. However, if Prime Day, you are looking to make this more of a splash, increase your audience sizes for you to retarget leading out of the event. Maybe you're looking to gain some access to Amazon marketing placements. 40% minimum on 1 or 2 ASINs goes a long way. So by applying that 40%, 50%, you become eligible for those different widgets that Amazon can then help set you up with. That brings in an influx of traffic, super high visibility. One brand that we actually implemented this strategy for last year saw an 11% increase in units sold the weeks immediately leading out of Prime Day by just enabling a 50% discount day one of the event and having those marketing placements.
Okay, so 40% off kills a P&L. It kills unit economics. What's the upside? And are you better off spending your budget or expense allocation on a promotion or your media? What is the right balance?
The right balance would be slightly lowering your tacos, getting a very concentrated media mix, and then having a higher discount, because when you are presenting a 40% deal on lipstick and your competitor, is offering a 20% on that same keyword, they're going for the bigger deal. And additionally, if we're looking at return and incrementality, what's important is to use this as a test and then measure organic sales post-event, and then also the subscribe and save subscriptions that you gain from the event. So the client that I recently mentioned actually saw a 25% increase in organic sales coming out of the event on that one ASIN. And additionally, by putting their entire catalog on 30% and using some doorbusters at the 40-50% mark, we saw subscriptions grow by 4,000 additional enrollments.
And I just want to clarify here, you're not saying do 40% off on your full catalog, right?
Absolutely not. What is going to be the best option would be picking maybe a tier 2 or a Sleeping Beauty ASIN that has potential. Maybe that's a new product launch. Maybe that's something that's been climbing the ranks over the trailing 8 weeks, maybe the trailing couple of months, in finding, what is most relevant for this period in time, and then applying that discount so that you can make more of a moment for that ASIN. And you can use that as a cross-sell, upsell moment. So protect your best sellers and then make another hero item out of Prime Day.
Amazing. And for those of you in the audience, if you do sign up for one of our Prime Day consultations, we will go through your deal strategy and we will give you a POV of how to structure those deals. Because we've seen a lot of success making sure you have a hero deal, and don't just do the 25% off the full catalog. We have seen a lot of brands suffer who have taken that approach.
I was just gonna jump in and say, I think, my hot take for Prime Day this year is that playing it safe is actually the biggest risk you can take. And I think those lower deals across the board is where brands feel like they're making a safe bet of not maybe exposing themselves with margin. They're expecting just consistent lift year over year, which brands have seen for every Prime Day the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah, I think this year we're at a really interesting point in the economic cycle. And I see, and everybody's hearing the news articles about people being more deal conscious. They're looking for that discount. And I think going deeper and narrower on a discount, and even at the cost of media investment, can produce a lot better, gains than just doing that 20% across the board.
What do you do when you have MAP agreements or a board or leadership that says we are not promotional? There's no way we are doing more than 20%. Neny, Victoria, Matt, how have you navigated those conversations and supported clients to get the internal buy-in?
I think one of the things that we can look at here is leveraging other types of discounts in addition to what you can do during the event. So brand tailored promotions is a great tool to use to either build momentum before the event, during, or after, and keep your discounts a little bit more exclusive to your audience of people that have already looked at the product, that have more interest than necessarily just having the discount in public. And also looking at subscribe and save. I've seen more and more brands do this the last couple of events where they'll just have a higher subscribe and save discount. And that way you're guaranteeing, to an extent, it's obviously not 100% guarantee, but the customer will at least have one repurchase from that, just because they have to subscribe and save to get that deal. That's a great way to leverage different types of discounting and still be competitive and get those additional new to brand customers.
Yeah.
One other thing I'll add is if there's flexibility in the type of discount that you are willing to run, 20% off of a $200 product is a significant amount. So swapping percentage off for dollar off actually helps move the needle, even though it's the same discount. So getting a little bit savvy with how that's presented also helps.
Okay, I love all the questions coming through on the chat here. It looks like, Matt, you might have had one more thing to add.
Well, Karan brings up a good, Jason asks, is there any hope for brands that can only do 20%? And Karan asks about, how does price history impact conversion? I think it does. 20% for a brand that is premium and non-promotional and still offers very limited promotionality. We've still seen 20% move the needle, but in categories where you're really trying to make a splash, that's where we've seen the 30 and 40% be, a big needle driver. But I do think brands now more than ever are leveraging AI tools to track price competitiveness and people are adding to cart and waiting for Amazon to bump them that it's the lowest price in the last 30 days. And that can be the conversion driver because customers are confident they're getting a good deal.
Absolutely. Let's talk about lead in, lead out strategies. I think, Jason, you're MVP for questions here. How should we be approaching it? Again, limited budgets, want to be conscious of profitability. What do we need to be spending leading in when the ROAS may look a little scary? Matt, what have you seen work in the 8 Prime days you've actively managed businesses?
Yeah, what we see tend to work. It depends on the brand and the Prime Day strategy. So there's no blanket approach. But if you see a major uptick on Prime Day, heavily weighting that investment to the lead-in period and during the event, and then strategically pulling back, even though there's maybe more than half the month left, I would rather put, front load 60 to 70% of the budget for the month in the weeks leading in the event itself, and then go light on the follow through. There might be a few exceptions to that, where if we see a major uptick in organic rank and we need to continue to fund that to sustain, the newfound momentum that you've built, I think that's one exception where you might want to invest heavier. But I do think one practical thing that we do to just ensure and carve out a little bit more budget for our brands is the day after Prime Day is a major fall off in conversion. So we actually just go dark on ads for the first half of the day after the event and slowly rebound our bids and spend, because we just see that conversion rate and efficiency is so poor. It's better to just withhold those dollars for the days and weeks following rather than immediately after the event. So that can be just one small tip to practically save. But in general, front loading for a big deal push is, I think, the best way to maximize the event and your sales for the month.
Just to add to that, looking also at your affiliate strategy, that might be something that you don't have as big of a budget for, but that you also want to front load. You want your affiliates and creators to be posting content weeks before and generating that traction around the product. Not only is it going to help your actual Prime Day performance in terms of just more eyes on the product, but it also helps Rufus and all of the ChatGPTs of the world now use that information to recommend products to people that are now using those as their personal shoppers during the event. So it helps with backlinking and providing additional information for your ranking through LLMs.
And one last thing to note about front-weighing advertising, especially with reaching net new shoppers, while they might be just window shopping and not necessarily converting in that lead-up period, it is helping increase your audience of individuals that you'll be able to retarget to. And one of the biggest shifts we saw in Amazon promotion and how they were promoting the event last year was heavy emphasis on conversion. So here's what you purchased last Prime Day. Here's what you've purchased in the last 60 days. Here's what you've recently viewed in the last week. Whereas in the previous Prime Day events, there's been more push for newness, discoverability. So even just going off of what we found last year, Amazon is also optimizing their site and experience for conversion shopping. So building that cohort of customers who are even just viewing your PDP is essential for when you get to Prime Day, because that's still going to be a conversion tactic that Amazon pushes.
And on that, Amazon Marketing Cloud is a really big tool. I mean, Matt, how should brands be using Amazon Marketing Cloud before, during, and after Prime Day events?
Yeah, so I mean, what Victoria mentioned about personalization is key. Amazon is a lot more likely to surface your ad over competitor ads if you have previously clicked into that PDP. So when we're talking about Prime Day, the lead in and generating traffic and detail page views is critical to help maintain visibility and re-engage customers that you've previously engaged with. And so there's a few tactics that we leverage at Envision using Amazon Marketing Cloud to maximize that. So for DSP in particular, that is a great way to build awareness, to drive traffic to your page. And we have leveraged AMC audiences to help target that customized shopper that we know is in our ICP. So we will look at building audiences such as past Prime Day purchasers or Black Friday, Cyber Monday shoppers, really trying to engage maybe our deal seeker shoppers that are waiting for that price drop, and we can target them specifically. Additionally, we will look at lapsed purchasers. Who's somebody who bought from us over a year ago but has since gone dormant? Can we entice them back, draw them back with a Prime Day deal that's compelling? You previously could only go back 1 year in your data, but now Amazon Marketing Cloud's unlocked 5 years of shopper history. So you can look at super lapsed customers and target them with your ads. So people who bought 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago that we know at one point were a target shopper, let's build an audience for them to get back in front of them, to start driving brand awareness, re-engage them. And so those are just a few levers. The last thing I'll plug is building lookalike audiences using Amazon Marketing Cloud. And we've found D2C shoppers, your D2C customer list, it's every brand's treasure trove that fuels brand profitability. If we can mine that for Amazon, not by targeting those exact shoppers because we want to protect the integrity of D2C, but can we match that customer data? Amazon can then build a lookalike audience that targets similar shoppers based on same demographics, shopping trends, and history. We can engage shoppers who are highly likely to convert, and that's been a really profitable way to acquire new customers for our brands.
Neny, part of your role during this event is troubleshooting. Sometimes a listing goes down 3 hours before deals go live. What are some top troubleshooting things operators should be prepared to jump on in those initial hours of the event?
Well, one of the things that we do right before the event and really as it goes live is that we audit all listings to make sure the deal is live, showing the right badging and reflecting correctly. So we definitely have encountered a lot of errors. One of the biggest things that we look at is making sure that if you do have external retailers that have deals that might go live before the event, especially now, as soon as Amazon launches the date, we'll probably see Walmart, Target, and other retailers follow. So making sure you have a very strong omni-channel strategy where you know what you're going to do if Amazon's forcing you to price match, if you need to shift your discounts. That's the biggest thing that will flag your deals during the event. And then in terms of compliance, if you have any products like SPF or things that are in the dangerous goods program, make sure you're auditing that well in advance to the event and making sure that no flags are coming up, that there's no new compliance rule that you haven't noticed, that maybe you have a certain keyword you shouldn't have. And similar with like your A+ content, making sure that all your copy is optimized for the latest and greatest compliance rules to make sure that your listing doesn't get taken down.
What do you do if you run out of inventory? Or, God forbid, Amazon does a fulfillment transfer and everything goes into reserve? What do we do?
That's where we definitely recommend always having an FBM backup listing where your personal fulfillment and carriers will kick in. Obviously, the economics of that is always different. So you want to make sure that you have that in place and you've looked at what your fees are and if your deal is still profitable with that carrier instead of using FBA. But having FBM as a backup is definitely the first backup plan to have here.
For sure. I want to make sure I open up the floor here. We'll do a little group therapy. Don't be shy, audience members. We want to open up the floor here to some questions. It can be specific to your business. It can be more broad, or quite frankly, it could be your hot take and opinion on what's going to happen this year. Love all the questions. So you're thinking about dropping out of Prime Day. Can I ask, what category do you sell in? What's the product type? home improvement. Victoria, do you have an opinion on this one?
I think if we're talking home improvement, like the tools realm of things, I think you could absolutely get savvy with your deal type and maybe swap instead of a PED or deal for everyone, looking at just launching the new to brand tailored promotion. So that way it's a very specific audience that can try your product and then become long-term customers after having purchased for the very first time during Prime Day. If you're maybe in the home decor space, I would definitely say Prime Day is a great lever and it is something that you should be playing into. Maybe that's only running it for a few of your ASINs and building more of a moment behind those. It's not always that every brand needs to run 20% off of the entire catalog. You can make a very intentional moment around just like one grouping of products. Maybe choose 5 of your SKUs, build custom creative, custom keyword lists that all are very centered around one narrative. And then that should be your big push. That way it saves margin across your entire catalog. And just to be clear, even if you run no deals, we always see an organic lift during Prime because there's such an influx of traffic, usually about a 50% bump from your previous lead-in daily run rates. So you'll still see that bump despite running a discount, but then having those 5 SKUs still allows you to actively participate and get more visibility to some of your catalog.
Yeah. And Victoria, I agree with you. I think the affiliate angle is a really strong one for home improvement of like, here are the Prime Day deals you didn't know you needed to improve X, Y, and Z in your home. Like it creates that sense of urgency, leveraging TikTok, leveraging other off-platform solutions. Because as you've shared, going above 20%, again, we don't know the price point of your products, but if it's a high price point, that could move the needle. If it's not, you may be leaning more into the FOMO economy or the creator economy of creating that sense of urgency to then buy and try your line of products.
Exactly. And if margin is tight, one other great way to get some traffic over to Amazon to then purchase would be maybe you're lowering your Amazon investment so that tacos is lower so that you're falling in a profitable margin. And then instead leveraging external traffic like sending SMS and email letters over to Amazon to those specific PDPs because it's free. And as we've seen time and time again, Amazon shopper, much different than our D2C shopper. So you could be reaching an audience that will never buy on your D2C, come over to Amazon and then convert. So that's also an option.
Any other questions from the audience?
While we're waiting on some questions, I'd love to ask a question for Neny and Victoria of, in terms of Prime Day, things can go south quickly if you don't have the proper checks in preparation. I know you alluded to doing deal checks leading up to the event, but is there anything else that you would call out that should be done in the days, week prior to Prime Day to ensure as smooth as possible event?
I would say making sure that you're meeting all of Amazon's cutoff deadlines would be the first start. So with that, like, for example, you want to be shipping all your inventory by May 8th. You want to be making sure that all of your deals are submitted by, I think it's the 24th. Our guide has the final dates, but making sure that you're meeting all those deadlines from the get-go will make everything run smoother. And that's like one of the first steps. And just making sure that you're checking your account daily for any types of flags, account health, stranded inventory, making sure that you have everything in good standing is a really good place to start.
One other thing that we do is we start planning for Prime Day months in advance. So we actually have a deadline internally at Envision for our account managers to complete their Prime Day preparation decks for their clients by the end of this week and then deliver those, talk through them with clients, get buy-in by, I believe it's the 14th of May. So that way we've got plenty of time to plan, get buy-in on discounts, talk about what our opportunities look like. If we wanted to pursue a doorbuster at 40%, how does that hit our margin? How can we make that work? Then we can submit for Amazon placements through Amazon reps if we have them, and also outline different niches, competitors, or keywords that we want to ensure we have top of search for during the event. So we've got a very specific focus leading in and then during the actual days of Prime. Preparation is key, as Matt and Neny both mentioned, but having that formal meeting time to go through all of these strategic recommendations from our account managers has been pivotal for that planning piece, and then just sets us up for much better success so that when we are going in and auditing our deals and we are hands on keyboard during the event, we're all very clear on the expectations and goals that we've set in place.
Absolutely. And Victoria, that's a great tee up as to why we're offering these Prime Day consultations from now until May 15th. So if you are curious to just get another set of eyes on your business, we're happy to help. Neny, did you have something else to add?
Yeah, I was going to add to our Prime Day planning. Another really important thing is aligning on which direct competitors are the actual ones you want to be competing with. It's really easy to get caught up on every single thing that all of your competitors, everyone in the category is doing. But if you want to really be strategic and competitive, following specific brands throughout other tentpole events, helping you plan, okay, this is probably what they'll do for the next one and how we want to position ourselves against them specifically, making sure that our ads, we have ASIN targeting against those specific products and so forth is a much more robust strategy than trying to look at what the entire category is doing. Making sure that you're looking at what they're doing in the big spring sale, if they are beauty in the summer beauty event, Father's Day, and all of the other temples throughout the year.
Well, amazing. Thank you, Neny. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Matt, for sharing your wisdom today. Don't forget to click the handout section so you can get a copy of the Prime Day guide. And if you are interested in one of the Prime Day consultations, there is a pop-up on the lower left-hand side of the screen, or I will resurface the landing page again here in the chat. We will be publishing this webinar on YouTube as well, in case there's anything you missed. So you can always circle back or you can reach out to us. Thank you all so much.